Welcome back. Politics on Your Side, bringing you closer to the leaders who represent your community. We return to a sit-down with Politics on Your Side's Evan Donovan and Republican Congressman Ross Spano.
You are facing multiple investigations for potential violations of election finance. Your initial reports were late. They included loans that your attorney told the Tampa Bay Times, quote, may have been in violation of the Federal Campaign Finance Act. Your latest campaign financial summary I have right here shows a negative $16,000+ on hand in cash. How can your constituents trust that you are handling your finances responsibly and legally given these issues?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for asking the question, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about it right now.
Okay.
So, you know, I made an honest mistake. I promised on the election night eve speech that I gave that I would be absolutely transparent. When I found out about the potential problem, I immediately self-reported. I reported those issues to the FEC. I immediately addressed them, and now we're working with the FEC, as we should, to make sure we're in compliance. In terms of our cash on hand, that's not an accurate representation. We've got much more cash on hand. The campaign has not repaid me for the loans that I made to the campaign. It doesn't have to.
Are you saying that the financial report is not correct?
Well, I'm saying it's been mischaracterized. So the issue...
well, let's characterize, because I'm looking at it right here. The way it says ending cash on hand, 160 and change, debts and loans, 176
let me explain that to you. Neither you or I are an expert on FEC reports, right? But basically what that shows is what would be on hand if the campaign repaid me. That includes debts that the campaign has, which is what the campaign owes me.
Right.
But what I'm telling you is that I don't ever have to repay myself. And by law, I don't have to. So,
but wait a minute. So this all came out of the fact that you took a loan from two friends for about $180,000, then loaned that money to your campaign, about the same amount, $167,000. You have since supposedly taken out a bank loan to pay that money back.
Which is perfectly permissible.
Right. Well, I'm not the expert there. So then, you're saying then you've got to pay the bank back, though, if you don't have to pay yourself back.
Well, I do. But that has nothing to do with the campaign at all.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? I have to pay the bank back, but the campaign does not have to pay me back for what I put into the campaign by law.
Okay.
You follow me? It's a complicated
No, I understand what you're saying, but that's $180,000 is a lot of money. The max individual contribution is $2,700, $3,000, let's call it.
Absolutely.
So that's far in advance of that.
Well, let me just say something. Look, if I first of all, as I said earlier, it was an honest mistake. I've always said that. Some people are saying, no, you did that intentionally. My first financial disclosure listed the loans. If I knew it was a mistake, why would I have included those loans on my financial disclosure?
Tampa Bay Times reported that you initially said that it may have come from your wife. That turned out not to be true.
I don't know where they got that information, but what I'm telling you is that what's being said about me being intentional about having broken the law is absolutely false. And I would ask you this question. If I knew it was false, why would I have included those loans on my financial disclosure? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I would have just gotten the bank loans initially and avoided all of this craziness.
Do you believe the climate is changing due to man-made activity?
I do not. I do not. I don't think there's sufficient evidence to show that. I think there's almost an inexorable push and expectation and belief that there is based on certain reporting. I'm not an expert. I happened to meet with a few young ladies at our open house yesterday at our Brandon office, which came in and said, look, can we talk to you more about this? I'm willing to listen. Right? I'm not an unreasonable guy. But what I've seen so far doesn't prove to me that that man has had the influence that some people has said it has had.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not an expert either. But the people who are experts, 98% of them say that this is happening and that it's man-made.
Right. Well, let's if we want to say that, let's parse through that, right? Because it's easy for us to say that 98%. I don't know that that's true. I don't have any reason to necessarily object to that fact. But I've also seen reports that it's not true, right? And you and I would have to agree that among the academic community and even among the political community worldwide, there's an inexorable push to basically force people to accept that it is true. And if you speak out against it, if you say, no, let's talk about the facts, well, you're an idiot. You're stupid. You don't expect things. So you don't accept what the scientific community says. So let me finish. So what I would say is, let's get into a detailed conversation about it, right? Rather than to say, 98% of the experts believe it. Well, you must be stupid, or
wait,
because you don't accept
you and I can't get into a detailed conversation about it because we're not climate scientists. Well, but those people who are getting into those conversations, and they say that this is man-made. Here's my point. I'm not a doctor either. But if my doctor tells me I have brain cancer, I'm not going to say, well, you know what? I mean, 2% of brain cancer specialists say I don't have brain cancer.
Sure.
So
but there was one time in the medical field where bloodletting was the accepted form of treatment.
There was one
diseases.
time when people thought that the earth was flat, and now we think those people are idiots,
you may
right?
not remember this, but at one point when I was very young, on the cover of Time magazine, we were headed into a period of global cooling. Do you remember that?
No, that was before me.
That was in my lifetime.
Okay.
So let's not just accept and swallow everything's being. Let's look at it critically. Right? We may not be scientists, but let's at least agree with each other, right? That before we call each other names and you're a climate denier and all that, that we get into the facts. And as I told these 3 young ladies that I met with yesterday, I'm willing to listen to you. I'm absolutely willing. And I will. I will. Absolutely. The question beyond that fact, though, that potential fact of man-made climate change, is what is the cost of addressing it? What's the cost? Are we willing to accept that cost? And what...
Is there any cost that wouldn't... I mean, if we know that it's man-made...
Let me ask you this. If the cost is this big,
right,
and the potential positive consequence of that cost is this big, do we move forward? Even if we assume man-made climate exists, and if the benefit is this big,
right,
and the cost is this big, where do we go from there?
Congressman Ross Spano, from the 15th Congressional District. Thank you so much for coming in, Ross.
Good to be with you. Thanks
really
for having
good to
me,
see you, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
If your air conditioner is old and inefficient, call Unique Services now. We'll buy back your old AC system for up to $17.